GLM 5.2 gives you 3.4 times more usable input context than Codex, and that number comes straight from the official docs. 872K usable tokens for GLM 5.2 versus just 258K for Codex, once you account for its aggressive compaction. Both models are getting picked up for real production work right now, so I ran 5 real tests pulling from official docs, Hugging Face model cards, artificialanalysis.ai, and Deep Infra. No vendor money, no cherry picking. Codex runs $100 to $200 a month on a subscription, but you literally cannot calculate what a single API call costs you, and whether that pricing gap quietly wrecks your ROI depends entirely on how you work. Alright, so this comparison is for you if you're picking a model for long document work, a cost-sensitive app, or anything where you need to fine-tune on your own data, because the wrong pick means either hitting a context ceiling mid-document or paying for capacity you can't even measure. Test 1. Multilingual reasoning and translation. You ship a batch translation job overnight and wake up to garbage output because the model quietly failed on Chinese input. No error, no warning, just wrong text. And that costs you client trust fast. Honestly, there's basically nothing to show here. I went through the official docs and model cards for both, and neither Codex nor GLM 5.2 publishes actual accuracy scores for multilingual tasks. GLM 5.2 supports English and Chinese natively, but that's a feature claim, not a verified score. The gap is smaller than it looks on paper because both models are in the same boat on published data. GLM 5.2's native Chinese support is a real structural advantage, but without hard accuracy numbers, it's still a claim, not a proof. So I take this one with a grain of salt until someone runs a real benchmark. I expected GLM 5.2 to pull ahead given its native Chinese support, but with 0 published accuracy data on either side, this one's a dead tie. Running score: Codex 0, GLM 5.2 0, 1 test tied so far. Test 2, API latency and real-time speed. For anything user-facing, a 2-second delay before the first token shows up kills the experience, users bounce, support tickets pile up, and you're stuck guessing whether the model or your infra is the problem. So, GLM 5.2 has real published numbers. Output speed ranges from 47 up to 476 tokens per second depending on your provider, and time to first token runs between 5.3 and 50 seconds. Codex, no public speed data at all. It's a complete black box on latency. Published numbers don't automatically mean GLM 5.2 is faster in your setup, because that 50-second time to first token on the slow end is pretty rough, and Codex's async batch model means latency might not even matter, depending on what you're building. I expected Codex to have at least some internal benchmarks, but there's nothing public to compare against. You can't score a race when one runner won't show up to the track. Running score: Codex 0, GLM 5.20, 2 tests tied now. Test 3, context window and long document handling. You load a big codebase or a long legal doc, and the model just starts forgetting the beginning, hallucinates things that were already defined, misses context from page 1, and you spend an hour debugging something the model should have seen. This is where the numbers get really interesting. Codex caps its API window at 400K, reserves 128K for output, and auto-compacts at 95% fullness, so you're left with about 258K usable input. GLM 5.2 gives you roughly 872K, that's 3.4 times more, and that gap comes straight from the official docs. Now, if your documents are short, this gap means nothing to you. Most chat tasks and smaller code files fit inside 258K just fine. The 3.4's advantage only really shows up when you're processing entire repos, long contracts, or multi-file projects. So for smaller tasks, it's kind of overkill. I expected Codex's 400K advertised window to hold up, but the compaction mechanic cuts it to 258K in practice, and GLM 5.2 takes this one cleanly, 872K usable input versus 258K. First verified win of the comparison, putting the score at Codex 0. GLM 5.2, 1, 2 tied. Test 4, cost and pricing transparency. You run a bunch of API calls, try to figure out your cost per task for an ROI report, and you just can't. The bill shows credits, not dollars. There's no published conversion rate, and you're flying blind on unit economics. I pulled the pricing pages for both. GLM 5.2 lists direct dollar rates as low as $0.95 per million input tokens, up to $3 per million input, and output runs 3 arrows to 1025 per million. Codex charges 125 credits per million input tokens with no published dollar conversion, so you genuinely cannot compare them on cost. That said, Codex is $100 to $200 monthly subscription, might actually be simpler for teams that just want a flat budget line, and if you're already on OpenAI's platform and not doing ROI math, the credit system isn't necessarily a problem. It really comes down to whether you need to know the cost per call. I thought Codex would have some kind of dollar conversion buried in the docs, but there's nothing. GLM 5.2 wins pricing transparency outright, $0.95 per million tokens versus a credit system with no published rate. Running score, Codex 0, GLM 5.2, 2, still 2, tied, test 5, fine-tuning flexibility. You've got a proprietary codebase with internal naming conventions and domain-specific patterns. The base model keeps getting them wrong and you want to fine-tune on your own data, but the model is closed so you're just stuck with no workaround. This one's pretty clear-cut. GLM 5.2 is released under the MIT license with open weights so you can download it, modify it, and fine-tune it on whatever data you want. Codex is fully closed, no fine-tuning supported at all. And I went through the docs and there's genuinely no path to customization on the Codex side. I expected Codex to have at least some limited fine-tuning path given OpenAI's broader platform, but there's nothing. GLM 5.2 takes this one cleanly with full MIT licensed open weights versus a completely closed system. Final score, Codex 0, GLM 5.2, 3, 2 tied. Codex wins on simplicity and ecosystem fit. You get a flat $100 to $200 monthly bill with no per call math, which is genuinely easier to budget, and it's built into the OpenAI platform with mature tooling, so it's a solid pick for async, hands-off batch jobs where latency doesn't matter. GLM 5.2 wins on almost everything measurable. 3.4 times more usable context, 872K tokens versus 258K. Transparent pricing as low as 0.95 per million input tokens. Full MIT licensed open weights so you can fine-tune it, and output speed up to 476 tokens per second on the right provider. Going in, I thought Codex's OpenAI backing would make this closer, but the data didn't go that way. If you're already on OpenAI, running async batch jobs, and a flat monthly bill is all you need, Codex works fine. If you need long documents, transparent costs, or fine-tuning, GLM 5.2 is the only real option. 3 wins, 0 ties resolved.